In the Know, a radio program talking to the newsmakers in Ogle, Lee, DeKalb counties and beyond, keeping you in the know. Here's your host, Charles Van Horn.
Good morning and happy Sunday. Another edition of In the Know as we close out Child Abuse Awareness Month. Joined in studio this morning by Michelle Pauly, who is the Ogle County therapist and advocate with Rockford Sexual Assault Counseling, Inc. Our conversation this morning will talk about sexual assaults. So if this is something that you might be sensitive about, just keep that in mind. Good morning.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Glad to have you here. Now, to start things off, Rockford Sexual Assault Counseling, you guys do obviously a lot of work in the region. You cover Winnebago, Boone, and of course, Ogle County. You're a therapist and an advocate. Let's talk a little bit about who are the people that reach out to you, first off. Who are your, I suppose, week to week, I guess you want to call them clients, I suppose.
Yeah. Contacts,
that you come into contact with.
So a lot of the times I'm sitting in my office or at schools with clients. So victims, survivors who have experienced sexual trauma. Those are most often who I'm sitting with on a day-to-day basis. And then also I do a lot of outreach and local meetings. I'm on, a couple boards and involved in some things too. So heavily come in contact with community members as well, trying to provide resources and share resources.
Let's talk about, when you talk about the school setting, what age range are we talking here? Yeah,
so school range. So RSAC provides services for 3 and up. It doesn't matter when the abuse happened. It could have been an hour ago or 50 years ago. We provide those free and confidential services right here in Ogle County. And my office is downtown Oregon. And we, so school-based, I typically, the 11 and youngers, right, where elementary school, we have to have parent consent for that. So the schools, elementary schools have been really great about trying to make those contacts happen and those consent forms be signed. Typically school-based, I'm doing 12 and up within middle schools or high schools.
When you have somebody in your office or you're doing a one-on-one, how many sessions are there to talk about this?
Yeah.
And do you work with other agencies to figure out, I mean, obviously, I assume at some point the criminal nature of it is already being dealt with before they get to you, or is it after? How does that all work?
Yeah, so kind of a two-part question there, right? So to the first part, so there is no timeline, right? So sexual trauma can be processed within a month. It could be processed within years, right? And it's all about what that person needs. So we don't put a time limit or a session limit on it at all. So it's whatever that person needs. I've been doing this for a long time now, and I have seen people come in for a couple years, take a couple year break, and then they're back into my office for a couple more years.
Yeah.
It's about what they need. And then, so you said criminal in nature. Most of the time, not most of the time, all of the time, we just need a disclosure.
Yeah.
So it does not have to be reported to DCFS, doesn't have to be reported to the police. There doesn't have to be criminal or civil charges involved for the victim or survivor to come in and get counseling therapy services. We are completely separate from the investigation process. We have absolute privilege, which is above HIPAA and typical confidentiality. And so we are not involved at all in the criminal investigation process. So that doesn't mean we are all mandated reporters as well. So if there is something disclosed to us while in conversation with somebody, especially a child, that is, mandated report, then we do make those reports.
This has got to be a very time-consuming thing. Obviously, every person deserves, every ounce of care and compassion and understanding, and plus the conversations that have to occur.
Yeah.
How many hours a week do you spend, just you alone, spend one-on-one with individuals who have suffered trauma?
It really depends on, sometimes I see clients once a month. Sometimes I see them weekly, every other week. It really just depends. I would say, over, because I don't know weekly. I know, my stats and my numbers. I would say yearly, I do about 500 direct hours, which, is including other types of interactions with clients and not just one-on-one therapy. But that's a yearly statistic, so about 500 hours. So I'm not a math person, I'm a therapist. So if you want to split that up into weeks.
It's been a while since that part of college, I imagine.
For sure.
And being a therapist, you've obviously got, speaking of college, quite a bit of background in all of this. What do you think has changed in the last decade or so in regards to victims and abuse? And really, I think the advent of how we're all connected. Cell phones, text messaging, videos, photographs. We know sort of the path those go down and what that can mean to somebody who's a victim.
For sure. I think the trigger warning you gave is some of the changes, right? That you knew that you had to give a trigger warning for this conversation because victims are getting triggered, right? And we're more aware of those things. Media, we are so... we have access to everything going on in not just locally, but in the world now. And I think that has increased our anxiety and, just our moral injury. That's a thing, moral injury, because there's so many hard things going on that we have access to now. But also that makes us accessible to services and resources as well. People go online, they search, sexual assault therapy, and we pop up in our area, and that is a huge improvement from where we have been in the past. I think people are talking more about it. People are more aware of things, with the proper education about, things that, and we do all of those things too. We do professional education. I do a lot of professional education within the schools and other organizations and agencies I work with, and so do all of the other counties as well. But with more education and things, and not just what we hear on social media or Law and Order SVU. I think it'll keep on progressing.
And you talked a bit about how it's separate from the law enforcement side of things. When you have somebody reach out to you, obviously a child under the age of 12, 13, probably not going to be reaching out to you directly, but I'm sure you would be absolutely, there to assist if they were to. Let's talk about the older teens, because there are dating situations and relationship troubles with boyfriends and girlfriends that can lead directly to this type of trauma. And that stuff definitely doesn't get reported.
Right.
How do you engage with the high school students or even young college students who could have situations like this occur?
Yeah, that's a great question. So legally by state law, ages 12 to 16-year-olds get 8 sessions without parent consent. That is a state law. And all of the schools I know that I work with know that. And so a lot of the times the school will have a school social worker or counselor will have a client disclose to them about a situation or something that has happened. They'll call me in and I will talk to that that student, that victim about about the situation. A lot of the time during those 8 sessions, it's about education, about what consent is. Let's try and label this and wrap our head around it. I also provide other resources within that time frame and talk about how to disclose to parents, right? How to talk about it with other people, because most of the time we need that consent after, not most of the time, all of the time, we need that consent after that 8th session. And sometimes teens are okay with just those 8 sessions because they don't want to talk about it with anybody else, but they're allowed to talk to me about it. So I really utilize that time with those 12 to 16-year-olds to educate about consent and what that looks like, safe body boundaries, self-esteem, and sticking to your gut feelings about things. And then those are also the conversations with the young adults too, college age as well. They obviously can sign for their own consent, but those are the conversations I'm having with them as well, like how to stay safe around people and online dating and all of those things too.
And these sessions that take place in the school environment, I would assume the child is pulled out of class and they're taken down. You have I assume a private place,
confidential,
and the kids are told they have to go get their shoes fixed or something. I'm sure they come up with their appropriate cover story for privacy.
Within the schools, this is a question I get a lot from clients or parents who are calling into that. The only people that know me are the people that should know me. Yeah. And I don't go get them out of class. I don't walk the halls. Side note, I hate walking the halls in high schools. And so I go in. I usually just go into the office right away. I have a designated space that I go in, and one of the office secretaries calls them down. And they usually know why they're being called down because it's a preset appointment before, like during school. So that's how that works. Like nobody knows besides, the office, sometimes not even the teachers.
Yeah. If you need a good excuse, I recommend orthopedic shoe salesperson. Oh. That would be good.
Within the school.
Yeah, there you go. You're here to do orthopedic shoes.
Okay.
Talking about students and young adults and sexual assault counseling, Michelle Pauly with us. In Ogle County, you talk to a lot of people. How widespread is the plague of sexual assault, especially of young people?
Yeah. So, nationally, statistically, I believe the statistics now are 1 in 3 women before the age of 18 will be sexually abused. And 1 in 6 boys before the age of 18 will be sexually abused. So when I'm out and about in Ogle County at info tables and I have somebody come up to me, which happens unfortunately quite often, that says, I don't need that. I say those statistics to them and then say, do you know 6 boys and 3 girls?
Yeah.
And they nod their heads. And I said, because chances are you have a child, a sibling, a friend, a grandchild, a coworker that this has affected, and you want to be that person that they feel comfortable with disclosing to. And if you say that you don't need it and you shun it away, that makes you unsafe to that person because they see you doing that and behaving like that. So everybody needs that information. Everybody, would and should know how to get help for it because it is very prevalent.
And let's talk about getting help. Clearly, there are trusted people in schools. You mentioned mandated reporters, things like that. But if somebody has concerns, maybe they don't want to let a teacher know. Maybe they want to just try to reach out directly. What can they do? Is there a number they can call?
Yeah. So we have our main office line, which, I refer people to use often for new clients, and as well as our 24/7 crisis hotline is 636-9811.
That's in the 815 area code.
And then my office directly in Ogle County is 815-732-0000. That is directly to me. And so if I am out and about in the community, I'm in session, you will get a voicemail. So that's why I refer people to that main line often, because you will almost always get a person to talk to.
And somebody who can at least give you directions to seek help.
Yes.
Also check out the website too, Rockford Sexual Assault Counseling.org. Michelle, thank you so much for coming in, and thank you so much for the work you do.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this week's In the Know. The program returns next week at this time with another great conversation with someone from your community.